Hi, my name is Chelsea Sherwood, and I'm going to be giving my informative speech on Martin Luther King Jr. What would you do if you had to live in a segregated life? What would you do if you had to go to separate drinking fountains, or use separate bathrooms, or go to different schools than any other race? What would you do if it was your race that was being discriminated against? Martin Luther King Jr. had this happen to him. And even though he had many struggles throughout his life, he still let this influence his actions and gain equal rights for all of the races, for the citizens of the United States of America. And in memory of Martin Luther King Jr., we need to try and recognize what he did for us and honor him. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15th of 1927 in Atlanta, Georgia. And at that time, the African American race was being discriminated against, and they did not have the same rights as the white race had. When he was 5 years old, he went to public school, and he had a lot of white friends, and this one little boy was his best friend. And eventually they had to start using different drinking fountains and had to start using different bathrooms, and eventually it got to the point where they had to go to different schools, and this ruined their friendship. They weren't able to hang out with each other anymore or play. And Martin Luther King Jr. was very confused at why this was happening. He didn't understand why his race had to be discriminated against. When he was 12 years old, Martin Luther King Jr. went to a parade against his parents' will. And when he came back, he found his grandmother had passed away from a heart attack. And he was really close to his grandma. And then he got really depressed, and he eventually tried to commit suicide. But he still lived. And he was a very intelligent guy. He was able to skip the 9th and the 12th grade, which allowed him to go to college at 15 years old. He was valedictorian of his grade in college. And while he was at college, he met his wife, Coretta Scott, and they had 4 children together. And after 2 years of their marriage in 1955, all the whites that were on a bus, they would have to, if they were standing, then the blacks would have to stand up and give them their seat. And Rosa Parks was 42 years old, and she did not like this. She did not want to give up her seat. She felt like it was wrong, so she refused to give up her seat. And eventually she got arrested for this. And the African Americans were very furious at why this law had to be set. And according to the LSU libraries, the MIA, which is the Montgomery Improvement Association, wanted to go on strike, and they voted Martin Luther King Jr. to be their president. They decided to do a bus boycott, and according to the encyclopedia, he gave this speech. "We have no alternative but to protest. For many years we have shown an amazing patience. We have sometimes given our white brothers the feeling we liked the way we were being treated. But we come tonight to be saved from the patience that makes us patient with anything greater, freedom and justice." The boycott lasted 382 days, according to the Martin Luther King Jr. Research and Education Institution. During this bus boycott, they did not go ride any of the buses, and they walked to and from their work, from school, and this greatly affected the financial of that place. And these financial issues were able to lift up that law of segregated transportation. And when the law was lifted, the MIA had a mass march, and Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. And this gave the African American race hope again. And he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Martin Luther King Jr. got a lot of persecution. He was arrested over 30 times, but he kept on pressing forward, trying to gain equal rights for the African American race. On April 3rd, 1968, he gave his last speech, which said, "I have seen a promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." And the day after that, he was up on his balcony and he was shot. So now what do? We need to honor Martin Luther King Jr. for what he did for our country. And we can celebrate this on the third Monday of January. And some ways that we can honor him is to read about what struggles he went through to gain equal rights for the African American race, or teach our children, and also even just being respectful for the rights that we have. And so, as you can see, Martin Luther King Jr. let his struggles and his past influence the way he led the African American race in gaining equal rights for their race.